My girlfriend texted me a few minutes before walking down the aisle. "I'm pregnant with my ex, let's end this." So I stepped onto the stage and told everyone that today's celebration was to mark me escaping. Oh, love grave. A few days later, she showed up at my door, tears streaming down her face. With 2 police officers standing beside her, I'm standing at the altar in my suit, ready to say I do. The choir starts singing. Guests are smiling. Everything looks perfect. Then my phone buzzes. I check it. I'm pregnant with my ex. It's over. Just one message and my world flips. Normally I'd panic or yell. Not this time. Somehow I feel calm, clear, I can think straight. I know I can handle this. People are staring, expecting a wedding. I step up to the microphone. Hundreds of eyes on me. Family, friends, co-workers. I take a deep breath. This isn't a wedding, I say. I'm walking away from lies. I don't call her out, this isn't revenge. I step back, let it sink in. For the first time, I feel in charge. None of it matters except that I can stay calm and make a choice for myself. I don't know what's coming next, but right now I'm free. Not because it's perfect, not because I'm happy, but because I decided I wouldn't let anyone else control my life or my feelings. I met Clara at an art gallery. She was smart, calm, and had this way of making everyone around her feel at ease. I don't know what it was. Her laugh, the way she focused on details, maybe just the way she looked at things, but I was hooked from the start. We clicked immediately. I went all in, paying attention to her, remembering the little things she mentioned, surprising her with small gestures. For a while it felt perfect. I thought I'd found someone I could trust completely, someone I could imagine spending my life with. Then came the first hint that something wasn't right. One evening I was walking past the balcony and heard her whispering on the phone, "Don't do this. It'll be fine after the wedding." Her voice was quiet, almost scared. When I asked, she said it was work. But her eyes, there was panic there. Something in them didn't match her words. That moment planted a seed of doubt in me. I started noticing little things, how often she checked her phone, how distracted she seemed even when we were together. She wasn't fully present. I didn't want to believe it, but I couldn't ignore it. I needed to know if she loved me for me, or if she loved what I could give her. Stability, comfort, money, status. I decided to test it. I decided to test her intentions with a symbolic gift, a fancy car, but without official registration. I just wanted to see if she cared for me, not for the car. It wasn't cruel, I told myself it was practical. I needed to see her reaction before I committed fully. I couldn't marry someone blindly, not when something inside me was already uneasy. She lit up when I handed her the keys. Hugged me, laughed, but a quick glance at her phone betrayed calculation, a spark I couldn't ignore. She tried to hide it, but I saw it. That night, lying in bed, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I still loved her, but love alone wasn't enough without trust. I couldn't give my heart, time, or money blindly. I had to stay calm, alert, ready for whatever came. It was painful to suspect, but necessary. Over the next few weeks, I paid closer attention. She was charming, smart, and funny, but little cracks appeared. A distracted smile, a delayed response. A phone she quickly hid when I came near. None of it proved anything on its own, but combined with that phone call and her eyes that night, it was enough to keep me cautious. I also realized that I couldn't let fear rule me. I had to stay in control, think clearly, and keep my emotions steady. I wasn't planning revenge. I just wanted truth. I had to know who she really was before I let myself step into a lifetime commitment. The car test was only one part of it. Every gesture and glance was a clue. I observed, and slowly the signs convinced me. Something was off, and I needed clarity. By the time the wedding day arrived, I knew I couldn't pretend everything was perfect. My feelings were mixed. Love, doubt, fear, and determination all wrapped together. I didn't know what would happen that morning, but I knew I needed to face it head on, not as a victim, but as someone who was finally seeing the truth. I realized that no matter how much you love someone, if trust isn't there, everything else is fragile. The gifts, the dates, the shared dreams, they mean nothing if the foundation is built on lies. And that's why I had to be ready, to step back if I had to protect myself, to reclaim my life if necessary. The morning of the wedding was hectic, full of movement, chatter, and last-minute checks. Flowers were being arranged, chairs lined up perfectly, and the music filled the air. I tried to follow my usual routine, shower, suit, tie, last-minute glance in the mirror, but that uneasy knot in my stomach wouldn't go away. Something felt wrong. Clara was unusually quiet, scrolling on her phone, her face distant and distracted. She smiled at me a few times, but it never reached her eyes. My heart kept sinking with a growing sense of dread. Then my phone buzzed. I had noticed small cracks for weeks, the phone calls, the hidden glances, the distracted smiles. So when the message appeared, I wasn't shocked. I was ready to see the truth. I glanced down. The message appeared, short and sharp. "I'm pregnant with my ex. It's over." My chest tightened. I froze, staring down the aisle. Clara had walked away. Our months of planning ended in an instant. Disbelief, anger, confusion surged, but I stayed standing. Instead, I felt an unfamiliar calm settle over me. I had braced for this moment for weeks. Yet I was still standing, still in control. I didn't need her approval, her love, or anyone else's validation to dictate my life. I didn't need to give her the power to break me. I typed a quick message back, trying to get anything from her. "Are you serious?" Almost immediately her reply came, "Stupid?" "Then deal with it." I stared at the screen for a moment. A cold satisfaction washed over me. That was it. No excuses, no apologies, just blunt, unapologetic truth. Clara had made her choice. If she wanted to throw everything away, fine. But now I could make mine too. I didn't need to chase her, argue with her, or humiliate her. Her own words said it all. She had left, and she would have to live with her decision. I looked around the hall. Hundreds of eyes were on me, guests expecting a wedding speech, an announcement, something celebratory. I stepped to the microphone, letting my calmness speak louder than words. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice steady, "today isn't a wedding. Today isn't a celebration. Today I am stepping out of a grave of false love." I didn't go into details or name her betrayal. The tension in my voice, the quiet conviction, said enough. The room fell silent for a few seconds. Then slowly life continued. Guests laughed, poured drinks, chatted among themselves. The caterers served food. Music played. The wedding went on, without me. I walked among the guests, exchanged polite smiles, watched people enjoying themselves, all while knowing the truth of what had just happened. Clara had left, yet life went on. Watching it continue, I felt liberation. No sadness to perform, no lies to endure. I was free. I checked my phone all day, expecting more messages. None came. Her silence said it all. She had left. Memories of our months together lingered, but they no longer controlled me. I found a quiet corner at the reception, sipping water, watching the crowd. I let the reality settle in. Clara had walked away, leaving nothing but a single message and her cold dismissal. And that was enough. I didn't need to punish her. I didn't need to confront her again, and I certainly didn't need to let her ruin my life. The world moved on, and so would I. By evening, as the last guests were leaving and the music faded, I stood alone for a moment in the empty hall. The chaos had ended, but the weight of the day lingered. I felt a strange mix of relief and clarity. The wedding was over, but I wasn't broken. I had faced a moment that could have destroyed me, and instead I had emerged stronger, calmer, and more certain of myself than ever. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe, think, plan a future free of lies, manipulation, and heartbreak. Clara had walked away, but I hadn't, and that made all the difference. A few days after the wedding fiasco, I was finally trying to settle back into normal life. Work, calls, emails, the usual routines. I thought I could distract myself enough to leave Clara behind. I even started to feel a little relief creeping in, as if the worst was over. But the moment the doorbell rang, all that calm vanished. I opened the door, expecting a neighbor or a package. A few days later, the doorbell rang. "I'm sorry." "I need your help," she whispered, panic in her eyes before the officers stepped forward. It was Clara, face red, mascara streaked, trembling. A few days later, Clara called the authorities herself after realizing the documents weren't legitimate. When the officers arrived at my door to clarify the situation, her face went pale, lips trembling, and she collapsed to the floor in the hallway. I froze. The BMW had been part of my test to gauge her intentions, but I never expected it to escalate this far. "No, no, you can't. This isn't happening," she sobbed, trying to reach for me. The officers gently held her back. I stood there silently, watching the woman I once loved unravel before my eyes. I let the officers handle it. This wasn't about revenge. It was about truth unfolding on its own. She had always seemed so confident, so in control, but now her world was crumbling. And it all happened while I did nothing but observe. Tears streaming, she hesitated, stammering excuses. Piece by piece, contradictions piled up, until she could no longer deny the truth about David, the pregnancy claim, and her intentions. Her pleas were frantic. "James, I can fix this, I didn't know the documents were fake. Please, you can't let this ruin me." I didn't respond. There was nothing for me to say. This wasn't about revenge. This was about watching truth arrive in its own unstoppable way. Her choices had consequences, and I had already made mine. The officers calmly explained the next steps: questioning, potential charges, and the legal process she would face. Clara could do nothing but cry and plead, knowing she was caught, knowing she had no one left to rely on. I realized then that this was a turning point, not just for her, but for me. I had survived the ultimate betrayal, and now I could finally see the scale of her deception. She had lost everything: me, David, her reputation, and any hope of a simple life. Meanwhile, I had gained clarity, freedom, and control over my own life. For the first time in weeks, I felt a strange kind of peace. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel cruel. I simply felt free. Watching her collapse wasn't satisfying. It was a confirmation that lies always catch up. She had orchestrated her own downfall. Eventually, the officers helped Clara to her feet and led her out, still sobbing, still pleading. I closed the door and leaned against it, taking a deep breath. Outside, life continued. People made mistakes, tried to cheat, tried to manipulate, but in the end, truth had a way of arriving, whether you liked it or not. That night, I sat alone, reflecting on everything. Relief wasn't about Clara being caught. It was about knowing that I had survived. I hadn't let her or anyone else break me. I had reclaimed my life, my peace of mind, and my sense of worth. The law, in a sense, had been the twist I didn't expect, but the one I needed. Proof that truth matters more than any scheme. By the time the adrenaline faded, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. My heart could breathe, my mind could think, and for the first time I felt truly free. Clara's collapse wasn't my victory, it was simply reality. And reality had finally sided with me. After everything that happened, life finally started to settle. Clara was released after I decided not to press further charges. I didn't do it for her. There was no satisfaction in punishing her. But even free, her life was shattered. Friends had distanced themselves. Family looked at her differently, and she now had to face raising a child alone while dealing with the mess she had created. Watching her struggle wasn't enjoyable. It was just reality catching up to her choices. For me, things were completely different. I threw myself into work and projects. Surviving betrayal and heartbreak, I learned life isn't about appearances or gifts. It's about knowing my worth and living on my terms. Every challenge afterward felt manageable, because I knew I could survive even the worst. Over the next year, I focused on building myself up. I got stronger, clearer, and more confident. I stopped chasing illusions and started seeking real connections. I didn't need someone else's validation to feel complete. I realized that freedom and self-respect mattered more than any relationship built on lies. Then, one evening at an art exhibition, I saw someone new. Not perfect, not flashy, just genuine, warm, and real. Our eyes met and I smiled. There was no pressure, no expectations, just a connection that felt honest. For the first time in a long while, I felt the possibility of trust and a real relationship, one without hidden agendas or manipulation. I was free, but the relief was tempered by the months of trust I had lost. Slowly, I started to rebuild my sense of self, learning to open my heart again. Life balances itself. People face consequences. I survived, I learned, and I was ready to live fully for myself.